Hi, welcome back to the Bubble.io learning series by No Code UCLA. We'll be teaching you the basics of building tech products without having to write a single line of code. This video will teach you how to use containers to display pieces of data. Bubble uses something called containers to let you display data. The first, most basic container is a group. Now, we've used groups before for design purposes, when we combine different visual elements together. However, as a container, groups are also used to display data. Let's create a group to hold a movie. Now, we're going to set the type of content so that the group knows what to expect. Next, we can display a default value so it isn't just empty. For this container, let's just do an unconstrained search for a movie. And now we'll pick a random one. So now, in theory, there is a movie inside the group. However, right now, we can't see anything. This is where dynamic data comes into play. When used in containers, they act as placeholders that tell your visual elements what to display. So now we're going to place the visual elements that correspond to the different data fields that each movie has. For data fields that are actually also custom types, for dynamic data, Bubble will let you kind of nest them. So if you want the director's name, it has to be the parent group's movie's director's name. Let's check to see if this works. So now you can see we have the parent group's movie's poster, the parent group's movie's name, the parent group's movie's year, and I believe this one does not have a director attached to it yet. So let's see if we can rotate until we find one. Oh, you know what? I might not have attached them. So as you can see, at the time of creation, we did not attach a director to this movie. However, the next video will cover editing data, so don't worry. Now that we understand the basic concept of containers, let's extend it a little bit. For most apps or websites, you don't want to display just a single piece of data, but rather a list of data. For that, we'll use repeating groups. For repeating groups, instead of picking a single piece of data from a list, you just use the entire list. The first cell serves as the template for the rest of them. You want to treat each cell as if it were a container. When we place the visual elements, instead of parent group, we use current cell. Let's see if this works. You can also overwrite the default data source by using workflows. What we're going to do now is have whatever movie you click on in the repeating group become the data source of the big movie container. First, because each cell by itself is technically not clickable for workflows, we need to put everything in the cell into a group. When we're using cells and their corresponding groups and workflows, Bubble will execute the workflow for just the group that's clicked on. It's a little complicated, but basically, you only have to do workflows for the first cell, which will then automatically be applied to all the following cells. But when you actually click on them, it'll only activate for that individual cell. Now, we can edit the group's workflow. When we click on the cell group, we want the movie inside to be displayed inside the big group. Now, you might think that this is a data action. However, since it's about displaying data visually, it's an element action. We're going to choose Display Data and fill it with the proper information. Now, let's test it out. In order to be able to check the flow and transfer of data, we're going to use the debugger to go step by step. So, once we click on the cells group, it should send its data to the big group, which should then autofill the visual elements. Your displaying data assignment is going to be a little bit more difficult. In addition to creating a page that looks like this one, you're going to have to figure out how to update your main page to make your movies display in a pop-up once clicked. You will be provided some hints. First, pop-up is just a container that behaves a little differently visually. Second, as an element, pop-ups are hidden by default. So that means you need to figure out if there's a workflow action that makes a visual element be not hidden. Third, when you're converting your list of movies on your main page, you'll be using repeating groups. If you look closely enough at the Elements editor box, you'll figure out the way to make the layout horizontal instead of vertical. Once you finish both parts of your assignment, submit the links to your new repeating group page and your updated main page. And that will be your displaying data assignment.